Today, in part 4 of chapter 60 of the Yoga Vasistha, we will discuss in detail topics such as the Earth's primitive dusty form.
You see, when Maharishi Vashishtha imparts this knowledge, he does so with this incredibly profound, calm, and authoritative presence. It's essentially a direct spiritual transmission right to us. We're not going to be looking at broad, sweeping generalizations today, okay? Instead, we're going to focus with absolute precision on the original Sanskrit teachings. We want to uncover exactly how this ancient text describes the dawn of our physical world without altering a single concept. It's a really amazing journey. So let's dive right into Section 1, Sarg-60, verse 4, which focuses on the Earth's primordial dust form. Now, we are actually going to bypass all those preceding verses, from Sarga 1 all the way to verse 3 of Sarg-60. Why? Because verse 4, specifically found in passage 61, lines 28 and 29, literally stands completely on its own as an isolated universe of thought. But before we break down the meaning, we absolutely have to establish our pure, unedited foundation with the original transliteration. By examining the exact structural phrasing that Maharishi Vashishtha himself used, we ensure that as we peel back the layers of this concept, we remain entirely faithful to the source material. No spin, just the original text. What is truly fascinating here, guys, is the specific Sanskrit terminology embedded right within this ancient verse. When Maharishi Vashishtha explains the origins of the Earth, he uses incredibly precise vocabulary to describe its initial state. The terminology points directly to a scattered, unsettled, and unformed physical nature. It describes what we can really only accurately translate as primordial dust. He isn't just using vague poetic metaphors here, right? These words are describing a highly literal, fragmented material state that existed way, way before the solid ground we walk on today. And this precise vocabulary, it actually translates brilliantly into English. The literal translation of this verse is simply, the Earth existed in a primitive dust-like state. That is Maharishi Vashishtha himself explaining the verse in simple, direct terms. Now, I really want to emphasize something absolutely crucial here. This meaning has not been changed. It hasn't been modernized or stretched to fit any contemporary scientific ideas. We're looking at the stark, unedited, literal translation of the ancient text exactly as it was spoken. Maharishi Vasistha doesn't just mention the dust in passing either. He details a beautifully logical, sequential timeline of planetary formation. Step 1 is the existence of this primitive, scattered cosmic dust. Step 2 is sequential accumulation. Just imagine these unformed, scattered particles slowly beginning to gather, drawn together to consolidate over vast, unfathomable stretches of time. And finally, step 3 is the actual formation of the solid Earth structure from that massive accumulation. It's a highly logical, incredibly detailed chronological map of planetary formation, and it's derived exclusively from verse 4. All right, moving on to section 2, philosophical and spiritual meaning. Let's look beyond the physical dust. The Yoga Vasistha is, at its core, a text of profound spiritual awakening, and it often uses the physical creation of the Earth as a mirror for our own understanding of reality. So we really have to ask ourselves a vital philosophical question here. If our incredibly solid, massive Earth, the very ground beneath our feet that feels so unshakable and permanent, if that began as mere scattered dust, what does this reveal about the true nature of our own physical reality? Take a second to really engage with that thought. This is exactly the kind of internal spiritual inquiry Maharishi Vashishtha wants to trigger in the student. Well, the spiritual interpretation of verse 4 is that the entire material world is merely a transient manifestation. Everything around us that appears so enduring and permanent is, in reality, just a temporary assembly of forms originating from a formless state. By logically connecting this physical accumulation of planetary dust to the broader nature of existence, the text guides the seeker to deeply recognize impermanence. Think about the huge buildings we construct, or even our own physical bodies. Whatever gathers together must inevitably scatter again over the vast stretches of time. Maharishi Vashishtha is teaching us that form is merely a phase. That brings us to section 3, parallels with modern science. Let's explore ancient cosmology and planetary accretion. Keeping that profound spiritual philosophy in mind, we find an absolutely fascinating alignment with established discoveries in modern science. In the Yoga Vasistha, verse 4 details the Earth's primitive, unformed, dust-like nature and its sequential accumulation. And in perfect parallel, modern cosmology explains the formation of terrestrial planets through a process known as accretion. That's where microscopic grains of cosmic dust collide, stick together, and accumulate over millions of years to form the massive structure of a planet. It's wild to think about, but the unedited literal translation of this ancient Sanskrit verse perfectly echoes today's astrophysics. This alignment proves a really profound point. The literal ancient meaning naturally parallels modern cosmological understandings without any modern revisionism. We don't have to twist the words of Sarg-60, verse 4, to make them sound scientific. Not at all. Maharishi Vashishtha's original explanation carries immense spiritual weight while simultaneously showcasing a deep scientific parallel. And remember, this was documented thousands of years ago, relying purely on profound internal observation. It's just incredible.
Finally, let's wrap up with Section 4, Life Lessons and Conclusions, integrating the knowledge of Sarg-60. So, what does this all mean for us today? The core takeaways derived exclusively from Sarg-60, verse 4, offer a very practical life lesson. Do not anchor your internal spiritual peace to external physical structures. Why? Because, like the Earth itself, they're temporary assemblies. Recognizing our origins as a primordial dust state promotes deep humility. It reminds us of our fleeting place in the cosmos. For those of you researching further, focus deeply on the key terminology of the primordial dust state in this verse. It's the key to unlocking dual layers of physical cosmology and spiritual liberation. It leaves us with a profound question to meditate on. If the very ground we walk on is temporary, where should we truly build our foundation of peace?
On behalf of the Vedmata AI family, it is our humble request that if you found our presentation informative, please share our video as widely as possible so that the authentic knowledge of Indian Vedic texts can reach the masses. Come, let us all participate in this yagya of knowledge. Har Har Mahadev.